Welcome back. So we continue in part 3 of this tutorial looking at this example of the restaurant search engine, reading data about restaurants from a CSV file and then parsing this data and processing it. Now we ended last time with being able to process the restaurant name, parse the restaurant name from each line in the file and then pass it to the restaurant object as name. And then those objects were stored in the array sequentially one by one. So we used a combination of the methods index of and substring to get name from the file. I'm going to leave phone and rating for you to work on, but basically you can use index of and substring together in order to get the second and the third items. What you need to note is that the second item starts where the first one has ended. Same thing, the third item will start where the second one has ended, and so on. Alternatively, you can look for a method called split in the string class, and the method split will basically split a string around a preset delimiter, which would be comma in this case, and then give you the different components in an array. So you can take a look at the documentation of the method split, use it, or you can continue working with index of and substring. There are different ways to get this sub problem solved. I used index of and substring, but it's possible to use different approaches as well. So I'm going to continue walking through this example, knowing that the phone and rating are not still properly parsed. But that doesn't limit us from continuing working on the example. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out this code. This was for debugging purposes. And then let's take a look at the second loop inside the program. And the second loop is basically a loop that interacts with the user. The user will be entering a choice. The application is providing three capabilities: searching by name, searching by rating, actually two. The third one is to quit. So inside this loop, and it's an infinite loop, but there are some break commands to exit the loop from inside, as we will see. Basically starts by prompting the user to enter a choice, and if the choice is 3, quit, it will break the loop. So the loop will exit when the user enters 3. So if the user enters any other value than 1, 2, or 3, you'll get incorrect choice and continue will cycle back to the beginning of the loop. So again, the benefit of doing a while true loop with break and continue is that it simplifies the structure of the loop in the beginning and double checking for input. And then afterwards, I go basically into the main loop body. So basically looking at command, there are two cases, 1 and 2. 1, we want to search for a restaurant when the search is keyword based. Case 2 is searching for a restaurant with a minimum rating. So the search will be based on the minimum rating value that the user is looking for, has entered. Okay. And once the loop is over, program will print goodbye. And this is here important when we're reading from files. We need to close the file so that it will free up the resource for other users to use it. So some of you have been already asking about this warning here that Eclipse is giving us. Basically, whenever you're reading from a resource, being a file or keyboard, you're supposed to close it so that other users trying to access this resource, the file, can access it. Usually this is not an issue in read-only mode, which is what we're doing, because many users in the operating system can access the file, reading from the file simultaneously. It's only an issue if you're writing into a file. If you're writing into a file, only one user can write at this file at a certain point in time. So once this file is being processed, it needs to be closed. So it's not an issue with keyboard, or it's not an issue even here with file, because we're only reading from it. But if you close that resource, you will notice that this warning in the beginning has disappeared. Okay. Again, so this is not a big deal here. It's optional because anyhow, it's the end of the program. But this is just to point about the origin of this warning in Eclipse. Okay, so let's get back to this example here. Now, I want to work on case 1, and I want to search about restaurants matching a certain keyword. Okay. Let's first run through the program and see what we have. This is the main loop. It's asking me if I want to search by name, rating, or quit. And of course, if I enter a value which is not among 1, 2, 3, it's going to be incorrect choice. Let's say I go search by name. It's going to ask me for a keyword. So maybe bistro, okay. And then it will print searching for restaurants matching keyword. Of course, it doesn't do anything yet because I need to complete the code here. Once it's done searching, it's going to go back and ask for another command. If I do rating, it's going to ask me for a minimum rating. And of course, then it will say searching for a restaurant with a rating equal or higher than 3.5. Doesn't do anything yet because we need to complete the code implementation. And if I quit, it just prints goodbye. Okay, so let's take a look at case 1 and see what we can do to complete the implementation. So what we're trying to do here basically is to take out this keyword and try to match it with each one of the restaurants in the restaurant array, okay? So again, at this point, the file has already been processed and parsed into the restaurants array, the data structure. So there is no need to access the file anymore. Basically, we're operating on the array, on the collection. Again, this is a general template for data processing applications. First step is to read the data, parse it into a data structure. Once this is done, we operate on the data structure. So let's take a look at this part. Of course, we need to print the details of matching restaurants. We have an array, and this array has a bunch of restaurants. If we're looking for a match, we need to try to match the keyword with each one of the restaurants in the array. So we basically need a loop to go over each individual restaurant in the array restaurants. So I can use any array format. I can use for, while, and for each. I'm going to use for each because I have an array, so it will save me some effort working with indices. So what I'm going to do for each restaurant, I can call it resto r item. Doesn't make a difference. This is just a variable that each individual item will be assigned to. And then the name of my array. And this loop will go over each individual item in the array. Now the next step is to take the keyword and see if there is a match, right? And we're matching names, so we need to get a hold onto the name of that restaurant. So notice that item is of a restaurant type, and restaurant is an object. We need to get the name of that object. So what I'm going to do, first step, I'm going to get the name of item by calling on the method getName. So this is essential because we want to match the keyword against name, right? We have no way of matching a keyword against a restaurant object. We need to be more specific. That's step 1. And step 2, since we already have name, which is a string, and keyword, which is a string, what we can basically do, we can use one of the string methods that allow us to compare two strings, or basically test whether one string is inside another string. There are two good candidates. One of them is contains, and the other one is index of, right? And since we're only interested in the matching, regardless of where this match happens inside the string, we can use the method contains. So what we can do if name contains if name contains keyword, right? Then we have a match, right? And when we have a match, we need to print the details of that restaurant. So of course we can do system.out.print name, but the assignment is asking us to print the whole details, including the phone numbers and the rating. So presumably the user is looking for the phone number to make a phone call to book a reservation, for instance, right? So instead of printing name, I want to print the whole thing. And to print the whole thing, basically I can call the method print on item. Okay. So again, this loop goes over each item in the array, taking the name of that item, the restaurant, and then testing whether it contains the keyword. Notice that you have to do name.contains keyword, not keyword.contains name, because name is longer than keyword. Keyword is just like a substring, as the name implies, a word that the user is interested in. Okay, so let's test. Let's see what we have. Knowing that the first restaurant has bistro inside its name, I'm going to type a keyword bistro, and basically we get the table bistro. Of course, rating and phone number are not there. Once this part is completed, you will see the phone number and the rating printed out properly. All right. So I'm going to call a name that does not exist. See. Now it prints searching for restaurants matching MIST 4600, but doesn't print anything. Okay. And then I'm going to search for bistro with a small b, and we don't get anything printed out too. So let's quit. It's kind of working, but there are two more things that we need to fix. Well, so the first one is that if there is no match, the assignment is explicitly asking you to print no matches are found. Right, if you take a look at what the sample run says, sorry, no matches were found. It also specifies this in the assignment itself. If no matches are found, make sure you print that as well. Okay, so that's the first one. And the second one is that when you're entering a keyword, that test should be case insensitive. So again, it's specified in the assignment text in here. And if you take a look at the examples here, you can see that, for instance, although the name of the restaurant is Takir Tsunami with capital T, even if you enter this as a keyword with lowercase, it still works. So we need to fix two things. We need to make the test case insensitive, and we also need to print no matches are found when there are no matches in the data. So let's start with the second one. How do we make this comparison case insensitive? There are a couple of ways to do it. One easy way to do it, if you don't want to complicate this condition, is basically to convert both parts to one case, uppercase or lowercase. Okay? Now again, we're converting it just for the sake of comparison. We don't care about the actual comparison here is just for the sake of making the comparison. We can make name and keyword uppercase or lowercase. Okay, so we're not changing data inside the array or anything. We're just making this change to make that comparison case insensitive. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to convert name to uppercase, for instance. So I'm going to create another variable called name2 or name upper maybe. And I'm going to call the method to uppercase to convert name to uppercase. I'm going to do the same for keyword to uppercase. Okay. So again, those two variables are just needed for the sake of the condition. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this comparison based on name upper and keyword upper. Again, the basic idea is that I want this comparison to be case insensitive, and by converting both parts to an uppercase, regardless of their original casing, the comparison will be case insensitive. Okay. So that's step one. Step two, if no matches are found, I need to print that out. Now, how do I know if there are matches here? I know if there is at least one match if I execute the statements inside this if statement. Okay, because this means there is a match. Now, of course, we need to operate when the opposite happens, when there is no match, meaning we exhausted all of the items in the array. So we went through this loop, but not inside the if statement. Okay. So we need to print there is no match outside of this loop when we try each item in the array. So I'm going to do system out print line. No matches were found, but this has to be conditional on not finding a match. So we know there is a match if there is a match here, right? But we need to access this information outside of the loop. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a marker variable called found or match found. And I'm going to start with value of false. So initially, I'm assuming that there are no matches. Nothing is found yet. Now, whenever there is a match inside the if statement, I'm going to make match found true. Again, this is a markup variable. You can make it an integer, 0 and 1, or a string. A Boolean is a natural choice because you either find a match or you don't find a match. So that's step one. Now I need to use match found outside of this loop. When I go outside of this loop, I need to make this statement conditional on not finding a match. So I'm going to say if not match found, system out print line, sorry, no matches are found. So basically, if we go inside this loop with no match found will still be false, and not match found will be true, so we print no matches were found. If we go inside this loop and we at least find one match, the value of that variable will be true, and not true will be false, so we don't print no matches were found. Okay, so let's try one more time. I'm going to search for bistro, and you can see here it prints bistro. And now I'm going to search for MIST 4600, and it will say sorry, no matches were found. Of course, I can do more thorough searches here, and this restaurant has 2 branches, so it should print the different details, the different phone numbers for each, which are not there yet. Okay, so that's fine because it needs to print all of the matches. So there is no one with diner, but I don't know. I'm not sure what's inside the data, but hopefully if the keyword matches different restaurants, they will need to all need to be printed. Let's see home, only one. All right. So what I'm going to do to end this discussion, I'm going to go inside this loop step by step, just to see what's going inside. I'm going to put 2 breakpoints before the loop and after the loop. And I'm going to delete the first one so we don't stop early anymore. And let's run this with the debugger. So let's search for bistro. So let's go step by step here. It's going to search item by item. And you can see that item here is an object of type restaurant. It has a name, number, and rating. So first step is to take the name. And you can see that the name is the table bistro. Convert that to uppercase, and will be the table bistro in uppercase. Convert keyword, which is bistro, to uppercase. And you can see that keyword upper is bistro in uppercase. Now match found is false, right? So we have contains here. So we make match found true. We found a match. We print, of course. This is the crucial thing. We need to print the information, and then we proceed. The second item will be this restaurant, home.made. We take the name, we make it upper, and home.made is home.made, uppercase, uppercase. Of course, there's no match, so we proceed and so on. Of course, there is only one match, so this will go on for 48 more times with no matches. So I'm going to fast forward to outside of the loop. And then match found is basically true because we set it to true when we found a match, so we don't do this, and we go inside one more time. Okay, so if you take a look at the console, we printed table bistro. Let's do it one more time, and this time I'm going to enter a value which is not found here, so ST4600. Okay, so Boolean match found is false, and we go inside this loop. Now we're not going to match anything with MIST4600. So we go inside this loop 50 times, and we don't go inside the if statement at all because there is no match. So fast forward, match found is still false, so not match found is true, so we print no matches were found. Okay? So that's basically it for the first part. I'm going to stop at this point, and I'm going to leave it to you to figure out second case, which is searching for rating. Very similar to what we've done here. Of course, we're looking for a rating equal or higher than the entered rating. Now for case 2, you need to finish the parsing out rating in the first part so that you get the rating data entered correctly in the array. Of course, you need to parse phone so that the results are correct as well.